Hi all, it's me Amanda, the Lazy Stitcher. Today I'm going to talk about the books that I read in October. I didn't read a ton of books in October. I read 6 books, which was better than I've been doing. it's been it's been rough, Just I haven't been reading like I used to, unfortunately. I am starting to ever so bit by bit like creep back into good reading habits, but that's life. That's how it goes sometimes, right? So for October, I was going to pick spookier books, but most of these books aren't spooky, to be honest with you. I'm going to be reading maybe more of my spooky books in November, funny enough, but it goes how it goes. First book I read was How to Cheat a Dragon's Curse by Cressida Cowell. This is the 4th book in the How to Train Your Dragon series, and if you've read any of them, this one kind of follows the same general feel. In this one, we think that Fish Legs, Hiccup's best friend, has been stung or bitten by a dragon, and that they have to figure out an antidote for it. So it's involved in trying to infiltrate another tribe and get a potato, because apparently potatoes are the cure. Yeah, this was the typical same antics that you would expect from this series. I gave it 3.5 stars. It's a decent enough middle grade series so far. These books aren't amazing, but they're not bad, and, kids like dragons, so there you go. Something to consider checking out if you have children. Next book I read, and I don't have it physically here because I'm lending it out to somebody, is The God of the Woods by Liz Moore. So this one came out in the summer, and I got the Book of the Month edition, but funny enough, I didn't get it like when it actually came out. I gave it like a month or so later. Anyway, this is a long one. Basic premise is we've got a missing girl, and it's a big deal she's missing because she's the daughter of like the head of this summer camp that she was staying at. And it gets weirder because her brother went missing when he was like 8 years old. This girl's like 12 or 13. But yeah, her brother went missing, and it was a big deal that her brother went missing. And sure enough, she's gone missing too. And it's this big whole. This is quite the story. It's long and it's very detailed and goes into like the different characters, their perspectives, and you learn like pieces of the mystery. This is actually a literary fiction as opposed to specifically a mystery book. I think that's an important thing to note. I have positive and negative feelings about this one, mostly positive. It's long, but I read it pretty fast, considering the fact that I haven't been reading as much as I really ought to. So it's engaging, and I think that's something positive to say about any book, is if it keeps me reading and keeps me page turning, and I'm reading it a lot faster than you'd expect considering how long it is. And I enjoyed the different perspectives of the characters. You really get to know them, but I also have to say I think there's a little too much detail in here that wasn't necessary. It's long, and I don't think everything that's in here is really needed. But as a whole, I think it's a solid book. Now, the ending, I didn't love the ending, but I enjoyed it. I think everything made sense for the most part. There were a few things, a few details that I guess were red herrings because they didn't quite fit into me. But it wasn't anything that was like contradictory. So, that's only like a half complaint, I guess you could say. All in all, I think this is a solid read, and I would recommend it for people who have read her other books. I hear, this is also, I've heard her other books are good. I'll have to check them out sometime. But yeah, I gave it 4.25 stars. Next book I read was A Sorceress Comes to Call by T. Kingfisher. This is the Owl Crate edition. I love T. Kingfisher, and she doesn't disappoint. This one is one, she tends to write, she writes fantasy, and sometimes it's, usually there's like a little bit of spookiness. I think it varies on the spookiness. This one is on the spookier-ish side, but I don't think it's too scary. Sorry, my husband's getting home, so. If you've read anything T. Kingfisher, this is along the same lines, and I think you'll enjoy it for sure. So, now I can't talk to myself. This book also was not quite what I was expecting several times throughout the book. There were certain expectations. It's not anybody's fault, but in this particular edition, they have a picture of one of the scenes, and based on that, I had certain thoughts about what was going to happen, but they didn't actually match like what really happened. It was different than what I expected. I actually forgot to tell the synopsis. So this one centers around a young girl. She's like 14. Her name's Cordelia, and her mother is a sorceress. And her mother is clearly not a happy, nice sorceress. She's pretty evil. One of the things she'll do to Cordelia is take control of her body. And this is one of the things that she can do to anyone, and make people behave how she wants. It's actually really creepy when it's described. It's kind of awful. So, and Cordelia has a horse. Well, it's actually her mom's horse that she rides. She loves her horse. And then one day her mom decides she needs to get married so she can have money, and she wants to get Cordelia married too. But she is working on marrying this guy, so she kind of arranges it so that they'll be staying at this guy's house. He has a sister named Hester, and Hester is an older side middle-aged lady. I think she's in her 50s, and she's very clever. And there's this whole dynamic of Hester knowing that clearly Cordelia's mom is up to something and she's got to do something about it, trying to think of how to thwart her and also help Cordelia, because it's pretty clear that Cordelia is not in a good situation. Typical T. Kingfisher, super entertaining. There's a little romance. It's fun. I gave it 4.25 stars. Next I have The Marriage Plot by Jeffrey. And this one, so I have the physical book, but I actually got it as an audiobook and listened to it because I just did not feel like physically reading this one. Just every once in a while there are certain books that I'm just like, I don't really want to read that. I'd rather just listen, so I did. This one centers around 3 characters. We've got Madeline, Mitchell, and what's the other guy? Leonard. And it's kind of a love triangle between the 3 of them. Basically, they're all students at the same university, and it's the 80s, which, if there's one thing I'll say for this book, I like the vibes. Like, it definitely feels like the 80s to me. And Madeline is dating Leonard, and she just loves this guy, but Leonard is bipolar, and it's very... He clearly has a lot of struggles. And then Mitchell is a guy she's friends with, and Mitchell really likes Madeline too. You know, he's convinced that she's like the girl for him. So we have this dynamic. And it's just kind of about the lives of these 3 young people. I actually liked a lot of things about this. I enjoyed, again, the world building, and I did like the deep dives into these characters. Like, I really feel like they're real people that you could know. But the big thing about this book is I didn't care for the ending, and it's not because I thought the ending was bad per se. It's more that it just ends. And you have no idea what's going to happen to these people. It's built up to a certain point and then it's over. It ends. As far as I know, I don't think there's like a sequel or anything. So you're just kind of left like, okay, that's what happens. Because again, it doesn't go anywhere. We don't know what's going to happen with these characters. And I'm just kind of curious. I just feel like we've kind of left them. And I don't, like what's actually going to happen. I just didn't, and I get that in a way it makes sense. Obviously, you're not going to follow, like, in most books, you're not going to follow the entire life of people. And I guess in a way it's realistic, like you just have to pick a point to end. But I personally didn't care for that. I just was left being like, well, now what? I don't know. I liked learning more about the characters. It's not a terrible book or anything, but it just wasn't, I think, my thing. I gave it 3.5 stars. Next, I read The Spell Shop by Sarah Beth Durst. This one is a cozy fantasy romance as well, and it's so cute. This one, our main character is named Keela, and she's a librarian in the city. And the beginning of the book is, I guess, the most stressful technically, because there's a rebellion and they are destroying the library. So she saves as many books as she can with her assistant, Kaz, who is a sentient spider plant who talks and moves around. And they save as many books as they can and go back to her home island where she is from. Her parents had a house there and they had moved, but they never sold the house. So she goes back, moves into her house, and decides, and as she's there, she meets, her handsome neighbor who's so kind-hearted and sweet. And she decides she wants to help everybody by using the spells, but this is illegal. It has always been illegal for anyone but certain people who are trained in the spells to be doing them. But she wants to help, and so she opens a jam shop where she also is doing some magic on the side to help people, but trying to pretend that it's just like little home remedies, but it's like clearly magic. So that's the basic premise of this. It's very, very cozy, super sweet. I haven't read the Legends and Lattes, but I bet it's similar vibes with, there being a shop and her trying to establish herself in this community, and you've got all the cute characters on the island and making friends, and it's just really delightful and sweet, and I recommend it. I gave it 4.5 stars. And then the last book I read in October, in this case I listened to, was A Darker Shade of Magic by V.E. Schwab. This one is part of the 12 and 12 challenge, where I read 12 books that were recommended to me by family and friends. And this was recommended by my friend Erin. So this one is a fantasy book. Basic premise is we've got London, but there's like different dimensions, different worlds. But it used to be that people could travel between the different Londons. And then it has become so that only certain people who have these magic abilities can travel between the Londons. And it centers around a guy named Kel, who is one of the people who can do this, and another character named Lila, who is in one of the Londons. And Kel finds something that needs to be destroyed, and he and Lila team up to do this. And there's various magic on the way. Yeah, that's the basic premise. So this one, I love a good fantasy, and this is a good one. I enjoyed the different Londons and seeing the differences between them. We've got like Grey London, which doesn't have magic, so they have more technology and they have more interesting. I mean, the technology isn't really high. I don't know what time period this is supposed to feel like. To me, it feels like 1800s ish. I don't know why. It just gave me those vibes. But the Grey London has more intricate like things that are made. While next one is Red London, which is much more magical and kind of like the pretty like everything's lovely London. And then we have like White London, which also has magic but is like there's a lot of try for power grabbing over there. And then there's Black London, which doesn't exist anymore as far as we know. We don't really know. And there's not a lot of characters to keep track of. But it was fun. I was entertained the entire way. Like I said, I listened to this. The narrator was good. I will say Lila Bard initially really didn't like her, but she grew on me. She grew on me. And I came to like her. And you know what? That's fine. I don't think every character needs to be immediately likable. I'm okay with characters being a little annoying, to be honest. I think it's fun. So this one I also gave a 4.25 stars to. This is a fun fantasy. It's not too dark. It's like just the right amount, you know. And I thoroughly enjoyed it, so thank you for the recommendation, Erin. Okay, that's what I read in October. Yeah, I was supposed to read spooky books. Not so much. Maybe A Sorcerer's Calls was a little spooky, but anyway, I hope you're all doing well. If you actually got to the end of this, we're in November, so maybe leave a turkey emoji. Hope you're all doing well. Bye.